We want to thank everybody for coming out this evening, braving the liquid sunshine to the public hearing on the millage rate. At this time, Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mayor William Bill Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mark Baker. Present. Councilmember Catherine Rao.
Present.
Councilmember Carmelita Gumbs.
She's here.
Councilmember Helen Z. Willis.
Here.
Councilmember Naima Gilliard. Councilmember Rosie Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Khalid.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, Mr. President, you can start the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing.
I believe, Mr. Mayor, that the CFO, Mr. Milage, is prepared to make an introductory presentation prior to the public comment.
Okay, Mr. Milage, if you come up, I'll open the public hearing after you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the City Council. This is the first of the 3 public hearings that we are going to have for 2018 millage rate. That is to support our fiscal year 2019 budget. So we'll have the first one today, 6 o'clock, and we'll have another one that will be on the 7th of August at 10 o'clock a.m. And the final one will be at 6 o'clock on the same day, the 7th. At the end of that 6 o'clock, the council will be asked to adopt the millage rate. So as you know that in 2017, the city adopted 7.149 mils of its operations, while Fulton County reviewed 4.43 mils for its expenses for the services that Fulton County provided to the city from January 2017 through April 2017. And if you add the 7.149 mils for City of South Fulton and the 4.430 mils of Fulton County, the total is 11.57 mils. The 2017 rate resulted in the revenue of little about $14 million. That was not enough to provide the services that the city needed at that time. The city had to go out and get extra money. That was about $12 million to help to run the city operations. In 2018, the proposed millage rate is 11.579. This is the same that we had in 2016, 2017. Only that in 2018 it was split between City of South Fulton and Fulton County. Again, as I have already indicated, that 7.149 mils was for the City of South Fulton and 4.430 mils was for Fulton County. However, due to rise in property values, this rate will seem like now people have to pay extra than what they had paid last year because of the rise of the assessment values. The following calculations shows the rollback rate based on 2017 of 7.149 mils. So last year, 7.149 mils was our base. That was our base. That was the beginning of it. And in 2017 mils, as I said, that was our base, 7.149 mils, minus the rollback that has been there, which is 9.30. That brings us to 6.219. And that becomes our base for 2018. In 2019, this was our base. And in 2018, this is our base, or revenue neutral. Should the city maintain the single rate without the portion of what was charged to the county, then it will need to reduce the level of services being proposed in 2019. In other words, if we are still to remain on the single now is no longer 7.149 mils, it's 6.219 mils because of the rollback. So here you will say this in 2017, these are the details for 2017, and on this column, these are the details for 2018. Personal tax, this was 17, and this is for 2018. Mobile homes, 59,199,320. And you have timber 100% 18 with nothing in 2018. You have gross digest, it's 3,118,775,256. And in 2018 is 35.9 billion. Therefore, net digest, this is 2017 and this is 2019. You see what I've put it in green. These are homestead tax exemptions. In 2017, it was 919,192,993. And in 2018, it has come down, but this is how much our tax is reduced because of the homestead tax exempt. And what are the homestead tax exempt? We have 3 at the present, 4 of them. The first one is, as long as you are in Fulton County, you are entitled to $30,000 reduced from your homestead. And if you are 65 without any income consideration, you get another reduction of $10,000. And if you are 65, including income limitations, you have an additional tax exempt. If you are 70 and above, you have an additional tax exempt. That's what all these ones are. So in 2018, our tax income has been reduced by this. And if you get into adjusted net digest after removing these ones, you have still 29. And if it was, which will not be, if it was as of last year, this is what we had last year, and we collected this. This year, if it was this year, you remember, you see, we collected $15 million, but because of the assessment with the same amount, this year you collect about $18 million due to the assessment increase. But if you have, so this is what we would have collected if we were to remain with the 6.219, which is the tax revenue neutral. However, this is what is being proposed. These ones are the same as we have gone through, but we get into 11.579. This is what is being proposed. It's not the new number. This number is coming up with the addition of the 7.149 and the 4.439, coming up to the 11.579, the same that we had in 2016 and 2017. If we take this one, if we adopt this one, should the council adopt this one, this is how much we are going to get from property tax. That's 33,907,936. This is what we are proposing. That's the public hearing is all about. Today, the 7th at 10 o'clock and the 7th at 6 o'clock in the evening. Should it be that the 11.579 is adopted, these will be the revenues in 2018. And in 2019, the upcoming budget. However, these numbers are fluid because there will be a lot of changes that the council will be making as we deliberate with the budget. So these numbers will be fluid, but tentatively, that's what it would have been in 2019. And by 2020, we will be showing an income and revenue of fund balance surplus in 2020 if we get into 11.579 this year. How do we arrive at 86%, because some of you may have already seen in the paper that our tax has gone up by 86%. The 2018 proposed millage rate is the same as 2017 combined millage rate of 7.149 mils for City of South Fulton and 4.430 mils for Fulton County. And the calculation is 11.579 mils minus the revenue neutral, which is 6.219. We end up with 5.36 mils, which is revenue neutral. And if you have 5.36 mils, divide by our base, which is 6.219, we come up with 86%. It's because we are moving from 6.29 to 11.579. We could not be from 11.579 because it was split. It was not one city that had that millage rate last year. Okay. So this is another illustration that we're having to say that we have Fulton County 4.430 plus 7.149 for City of South Fulton, for a total of 11.579 mils. In 2018, this is 2017, in 2018 where we are now, we have 7.149 mils minus 9.30 mils, that's the rollback. We end up with 6.129 mils. And in 2018 proposal, we take the 7.149 mils plus 4.3430 mils, ending up with the same 11.579 mils. Looks like an increase, but it's not an increase. Please, if you have any questions or you need extra information or you need extra clarifications, feel free to contact the city treasurer at that number 4708097700.
Thank you so much. I have a question, Ms. Rao.
Mr. Milage, I know you talked about getting revenue neutral, and you talked about the rollback at .0093. Will we not have to look at the rate that you quote, 6.219 plus what was with the county, 4.430 to get 10.6.49?
So that one, it will be up to the council to say we are coming down instead of getting the same, because there was this assessment increase. Assessment increase was there, we have to reduce, but 5.36 mils is the difference between 11.579. 6.219 is the base, the revenue neutral. Revenue neutral 6.219, that's the revenue neutral. From there to go to where we want it to be, 11.579 as we were last year, there's that difference of 5.36. So if we are coming to 10, that means you are coming down from the 11, you can get down to wherever you want, but that will be a reduction of revenues.
And just to clarify, the budget presentation that we'll get today is based on the
11.579, yes, you are correct. That's right.
Okay.
Councilwoman Lewis.
Can you back up? Revenue expenditures at 11.57 mils. The short-term repayment is that a tax anticipation note? I mean, the short-term borrowing, is that a tax anticipation note?
Say it again.
Short-term borrowing?
So short-term borrowing is, we already have the $11.12 million that we borrowed that is expected to pay this coming December. It will be due in December. However, last year you approved us to go out and get additional $10 million to make up That one, up to now, we have not, and we are trying our best not to get the entire $10 million. The worst we can go as of today, maybe it's up to $7 million. But we still strive by end of September, if we can get it mid-September, we want to go as low as maybe even 5, if it's less, it's possible, if it's less than $5 million.
Okay, but these are, just for the purpose of public, these are tax anticipation notes with the anticipation of receiving taxes.
So what we have planned is we have that $12 million that is due in December. So it will be due, we'll pay that with the revenue that we are going to collect. Taxes will be due October the 11th, October the 15th. So between October, November, and December, we'll collect enough money to pay the $12 million. So we will remain with what we have borrowed now, which will be about $7 million. That one we are not going to pay in December. We will roll it over to 2019. That's the only short borrowing we are anticipating to have. We are not planning to borrow anything in 2019 should this millage rate pass.
Okay, but the instrument is called tax anticipation note.
Tax anticipation note is called, in short, is TAN, yes.
Okay.
Because it's a promise that we have money, we are going to receive tax, and you have to meet that. They borrow us because they know by any means we'll have money from tax.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Milage, hearing your presentation, very informative. The only thing that, and I turned to Councilwoman Guns, because I smiled a little bit, when you term look like a tax, but it ain't a tax. And I mean, I think I know what you're talking about, but that is something that you're going to explain to me in simple terms to citizens, because they don't feel good with look like a tax, but it ain't a tax.
Noted.
Mayor, so that's why I kept saying, when you said short-term borrowing, I'm getting that question a lot, so that's why I wanted him to explain that it's actually a tax anticipation note.
Sure. Any other? Being having no other questions, thank you so much, Mr. Milage, and I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Blair?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so far we've only received one speaker card. If Mr. Anthony B. Williams would please approach the podium, and if there are other speakers who are here that would like to speak, please pass your speaker card to Margaret at the back. Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, council. Mr. Mayor, how y'all doing? Just representing Sandtown Park. My name is Anthony Williams. Most people know me by Coach Tony. I'm the commissioner and director at Sandtown Football. Pretty much I looked at the budget and I see some things that for 2018, such as like uniforms, that really the Parks and Recs really kind of take care of their own uniforms. So my biggest issue would be when would those funds be available for Sandtown to make immediate improvements, such as field improvement, concessions. Sandtown pretty much makes up probably 50% of football this year, out of all the parks that have football. So with that being said, the immediate improvements that we would like to make is pretty much field improvement, getting rid of the wood benches to get some metal bleachers, getting bleachers on both sides of the field, repairing our scoreboard, possibly getting a new scoreboard. The dugout improvements, our dugouts look horrible. I know it's football season, but because they're out there, it's during football season, everybody sees it. Our concession stands really need great improvement and upgrades. That's been going on for years now. In our baseball sports facility improvements, we've always done most of the parks and recs. And you're looking at the budget, there are a lot of things in that budget where the city wants to take on. But the way the parks and recs are currently being ran, The parks and associations have pretty much done the majority of those things on their own already. So when we talk about millage rate and we look at possible things, I know this kind of off subject, but if we want to look at things to reduce some things, you almost can leave some of the parks and recs as is, because a lot of them do kind of govern and run themselves. If you want to bring in people and bring in other aspects of it and add people to that, then that's going to be additional cost. So, for the most part, I'm just kind of here only speaking for Sandtown, but I do know how the parks and recs holistically as a whole are currently being ran, from baseball, football, and even on the basketball side. I've been a head coach at Sandtown now for 9 years.
Ms. Marie Page Hargrave and Ms. Conchita Platter.
Good evening. I just have two questions. The first one is, can you explain a little bit what millage rate is, since this is all based on that? So exactly what is that?
I'll allow that. You explain to her what a mill is.
Am I the only person that doesn't know that?
You probably,
Okay.
you probably not.
Okay. I'm from someplace else and that never came up.
So a mill is a mill is any amount that you have to divide it by 1,000. So let's say you have a home that is 100,000. So I'll give you an example over here. There's a home that is $200,000. Out of that $200,000, $250,000 home, you have to have the market value. You pay the market value of in Fulton County. You have to multiply that one by 40%. 40% of 250 will be $100,000. That's where you start paying. You will not pay at 250,000. You pay at 100,000. From that 100,000, the fact that you have everyone has got a tax exempt of 30,000. So 30,000 will be out. Remaining will be 70,000. That 70,000 has to be divided by 1,000 times the millage rate that is as of now that we are proposing. So it will be 70,000 divided by 1,000 times 11.579. That amount will be the amount that you are going to pay for your tax.
Okay, I'm sure she's 30.
No, I kind of understood that. It's a formula.
Yes, it's a formula.
Yeah, okay.
So if you are 65,
Divide 100 pennies, how many pennies is it? I'm talking to you, Mr. Lawson. If I got 100 pennies, how many pennies is it?
We got to do up 30.
if you have 100 penny, a meal, that means you have to divide by 1,000,
And what was it?
0.01.
That's a meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then if you are 65 years, again it will be that same house of 250,000. You start at 100,000. 100,000, then you remove 30,000. And 30,000 you have also to remove 10,000 because you are 65. And if you are 65 plus income limitations, there's another additional amount of money that has to be added, an additional 5,000. Yeah. And if you are 70 years old, first again it will be 250. You start at 100,000, and 100,000, then you remove 30, you remove 10, you remove whatever is applicable to the 70. So, for example, here is someone that is just for basic 250. You will pay property tax for 3,378. If you are just basic of 100,000.
All right.
But if you are 60 without income limitations, you pay 3,272. If you are 65 plus income limitation, you are going to pay 2,900. You see it's coming down.
Right.
And if you are 70, the same house of 250,000, you are going to pay, how much is this? 853. So you see someone will pay 3,300 plus. Someone will pay 3,200, 2,900. And the 71 will pay about $800.
I think she got it.
I
Mr.
understand,
Rogers.
thank you.
And that was a good question. I wanted to allow that to be done because we should have probably explained it during the presentation. She's
One last thing I want to ask, you mentioned that if the proposed millage rate is not accepted, then there might be some reduction in services? Am I understanding that correctly, what was said? Yes?
we'll entertain your questions and we'll get someone to talk to you about it
Okay.
because it's a public hearing.
Okay. So is that no answer right now?
Yeah, Ms. Milage, Ms. Milage.
Okay. So later?
Here you go.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Milage.
I was just wondering what those services
Ms.
might
Milage,
be
you
and
take her to the mic.
how they might be
Can I have your number?
I have a pencil.
You can take her over here and
Okay.
yeah, go right there.
Why should he do that? Maybe everybody wants to know. Why don't they give us papers with these things on it?
Okay.
Can you give us forms?
Next
The
person.
phone I put, the
Phone
phone was,
yeah, we did get your phone.
No, not phone number. Forms, papers, numbers, individuals, so everybody can understand exactly what's being said and done.
Yeah.
I see that. That means nothing to me.
I just
Well, let me allow you to speak because you want to speak and then I get this closed. I hear you, ma'am.
I know you do.
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
Am I sitting down or is he
Hold on a
explaining?
minute. Please, go ahead. Sit down. Go ahead, please.
So I feel like I'm hearing the question. So here's what I feel like my answer would be. And that is, just like we have sales tax, we have this 8 3/4% sales
Right.
tax.
Exactly.
The millage rate is the sales tax on your house.
I understand
So
that.
whatever if we raise taxes, we have more money to buy things and get things for the city. If we cut taxes, we have less money.
I
or we have to borrow.
understand that. My question is, if that millage rate is not accepted, what specific services might we see a reduction in? Like, is there going to be reduction in what services?
I mean, we would.
Or is it going to be like across the board?
So
like-
I think if it's rejected, then we would have to come up with a new millage rate. They would have to do the new math to figure out what the new total would be, and then we have to figure out what to cut.
so.
Right, it could be across the board, it could be specific areas
Okay.
where it could.
But at this point, there is no
No,
specifics?
no, ma'am, we're not.
So on the 14th of August, on the 14th, there will be a presentation of the budget. Do come here and see what our budget is. And in that budget, you will see the line items, the department, what services they provide, and they will be discussing to and forth, and if we don't get that revenue to support those expenses, then some services will be cut.
All right.
And that's the time you will see where are we cutting services. Are we cutting services from police? Are we cutting services from fire?
Right.
That's the time. So on the 14th and the other public hearings that will be there for the budget, do come and you will have the answers.
Okay. Thank you.
And ma'am, we're gonna go ahead and let everybody hear the answer, okay?
Oh, that's
Lady in the back. All right, Ms. Willis. What do you call the next, Ms. Willis?
I just want to read the basic definition for meal, because what Frank explained was the formula and how to calculate it, and I know that was thoroughly confusing, and I plan to put this in my newsletter too. The mill is a property tax or millage rate, is an ad valorem tax on the value of a property, usually levied on real estate. The tax is levied by the governing authorities of the jurisdiction in which the property is located. The reason I was holding this up is because this is something that we asked our staff to come up with that will simplify how the millage rate is calculated. And so I would ask that each of you get one. It breaks it down to how the millage rate is calculated. It also on the bottom explains how do we have an 86% increase And it's in layman's term. Our communications director broke it out. She did a very good job with breaking this out. And so we have three types of millage rate. We have the city of South Fulton millage rate. We have the school has a millage rate, and then the county has a millage rate. So what we're specifically focusing on tonight is your millage rate for the city of South Fulton, and those taxes will be used to pay for your municipal services. Only municipal services. Police, fire, parks, you get it, those services. If we do not accept what Frank Milage is proposing, then what he's saying is that we are going to have to look at cutting services. What those services would be, at this time, that's something that the council would have to get together and decide if you don't accept the village rate he's proposing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clerk?
Ms. Platter, and then Ms. Kathy Butler.
Good evening. I have a few questions. The first one is,
Put the microphone close to you.
my first question is, when you were showing the budget, you indicated that the exemptions from 2017 to 2018 went down. And my first question is, why did they go down? Did less people qualify for exemptions, or did the formula change?
Good question, Mr. Milage.
So there are several reasons. Some, they have sold the houses. Some, they have moved out. Some, they have rolled out. So different. Some, the thing is, once you have applied for homestead exemption, you don't have to apply it every year. But those factors of rolling down, sometimes the income has gone down. Someone was 65 this year, now is 70. That means they completely don't have to pay anything. So if they are not paying anything, then there's nothing with that. And we get that information from their tax assessor.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
But it varies year by year. Go ahead if you have you
Okay,
need more information.
I mean, no, I'm good on that. I was just.
Come back to the
curious.
microphone, man.
Okay, my next question is, when we were being convinced to vote for the city, we were told a couple of things. One thing we were told was that we were going to get some money, like millions of dollars from the county, I think it was.
Option
No
sales.
problem.
Okay, I don't remember how much money it was, but are we getting it?
Yes, we are.
How much was that?
What is the, Mr. Milage, what was the figure?
We are getting now is about $24 million. We get every month about $2.2 to $2.4 million every month.
Thank you. And then my last question was, again, when we were, being convinced to vote for the city, one of the questions, of course, was the city taxes, and we were told something to the effect of we wouldn't be seeing additional taxes because we were already paying some tax, and I think there was SSD or something of that nature. Okay. So some people were exempt from the SSD, but when the proposed tax bill came along, you had city taxes. So thus, it was showing that your taxes went up, a whole bunch, because you're no longer exempt from because you're not exempt, even though the SSD was supposed to have moved over. So are we, are those people going to be exempt or have the same exemption now, such that they won't have the city or as much city tax or whatever, or what? Do we know?
Mr. Milage and Councilman.
SSD is the city of South Fulton. It used to be SSD. 2016, you paid the same millage rate in 2016 as SSD. 2017, you paid the same millage rate of 11.579, but the first 4 months, Fulton County seat was not there. The city started in May. So January, February, March, April,
That's where on your tax bill for last year, you will see there was the SSD representing those first 4 months, and the state of South Fulton representing the last 8 months. That was one time Fulton County had to do that. Now, instead of SSDs gone, everything is going to state of South Fulton. So SSD is the city of South Fulton today.
Okay, I understand that SSD is City of South Fulton, but if you were exempt from SSD before we came to city, can you still be exempt from it now that you're the city? Because now
Yes.
we have raised, you raised our taxes a lot, because you threw in the city tax. Okay, we don't have SSD, but you threw in the city tax, and we were not exempt from it. So now the people that were exempt will be exempt from the city tax? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone that was exempted in SSD, if ever you happen, they have dropped you off, please do check with us so that we can renew your tax exempt. Anyone on SSD exemption will continue with the city of South Fulton exemptions.
Councilwoman Willis and Councilwoman Rob.
Yes, I want to explain that not only, as you mentioned that we were going to get additional monies, but not only are we receiving local option sales tax, now as a city we are also receiving franchise fees. So we're receiving additional revenue streams as we talked about when we were lobbying to become a city. And not only that, one of the things that's a misconception is that the city of South Fulton raised taxes, or your taxes are going up because we are a city. The taxes are going up because we were not properly assessed in the city. Well, if throughout Fulton County, it's not just a city, it's a county problem. We weren't properly assessed for about 10 years in Fulton County. Now the tax assessor is mandated to properly assess property, and so that's why your values are going up, which yields a higher tax bill. And so we did a lot of these information sessions prior to this budget process, and some of them were poorly attended, but the tax appraiser came out, explained it, and tried to prepare you for this as much as possible before the tax assessment bills came out. And then now you're going to get a property tax bill, which may be delayed. I saw that on the news the other day, Commissioner Ferdinand talked about. But you're going to get a tax bill next. But it's not because we are a city. It's because the chief tax appraiser from the county did not properly assess our property for over 10 years.
One of the comments you made is in fact valid. I know I heard from a number of seniors in District 1 who's had exemptions in place previously. They didn't have it. In our understanding, Mr. Milage has been working with them to make sure that they carry over. So there were some errors on the original tax assessment notices that didn't apply them, and individuals had them in place prior to us becoming a city. But our understanding is that they'll be making those corrections. So you may fall in one of those categories.
Let me just add to what Councilwoman Willis just said. There were times that the county did assess property, but the outcry from the citizens was, don't raise my taxes. And for more than 14 years, the county rolled those taxes back. Some of you remember that some people were saying, I can't sell my house for this. Well, no, you couldn't. Because when you continue to come in and say, we want to tax the hill, we want to tax this hill, we want to tax this hill, and then the electorate at the time roll back, at some point in time, the chicken's going to come home to roost. And I think they're here. And the tax people came out to this city, held meetings, and talked about the upcoming. That's the issue right now. You know, I meet people all the time say, Bill, you gonna roll you raise my taxes. Ain't even raised anything. We haven't done anything. As a city, we haven't done anything to your taxes. And that's what we're gonna decide tonight. We're probably not gonna do anything with them either. But I just want people to understand that. So now, those people who said that I couldn't sell my house, well, guess what? You can sell it now. You can sell it now and get your money for it. So it's very difficult, us as electeds, you know, we listen to our people, we understand, and there was a recession going on. We understood that. There was a recession going on at that time. So rolling back helped a lot of people. I just hope someone saves some of that money, you know, because it's here today. And we, you know, I don't think we as a city, it's not fair to blame us. And to say, well, if we wouldn't have been a city, we wouldn't have this problem. That's not true. You'd have been faced with the same situation that you face today, only you've been what is called unincorporated South Fulton. But you'd have had the same issues, and the same people down in Fulton County from north and south would have decided what they were going to do with your millage rate. So I just want to make that clear and add to what she said. Go ahead.
I received my estimated tax bill, and the SSD was on it, and 500.
Put your mic on.
Oh, the SSD was on the bill, and I had never paid any SSD, and $510 was on it, and I'm wondering why. And of course, you know, I do get a senior exemption. So I still haven't figured that out. But today, an email from one of the associations, Fulton County has increased their millage rate a little bit. Did anybody get that? And so the Fulton County side is going to go up a little bit, but ours has remained the same. And I know that it's complicated because when we break out the part where we owe the county whatever, and that was 4 point something, and then that left 7 point something. But when you put it all together, it still comes back to 11.579. So we have not raised it. So Mr. Milage, I can't wait to meet with you for you can tell me why they billed me $510.
Right, anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You have Miss Kathy Butler.
You saw me when he had
Yeah. You more important he is, come on.
Okay.
I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy Butler, and I have two questions. My first question is, in all of these calculations, are you still offering the $30,000 city basic homestead exemption for the city of South Fulton? Is that correct?
Yes.
I mean, because I know there's a county and then there's a city, and so I'm just asking, so the city still is offering the $30,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See, I'm a Union City resident. We don't get that. That's my cross to bear. But my other thing is, I do wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying as far as the county being, negligent in how they, assess property values over the years. And as a new resident here in Fulton County, I can appreciate the fact that my home value is, what they consider to be fair market. And as I told many residents, you don't want to fight the battle of necessarily having your property value reduced, because if you do want to sell, then you're going to have an issue. But what I see the bigger problem to be is our school taxes. Because if we can get our school taxes reduced significantly, a lot of the pain that people are feeling with regards to their city taxes and their county taxes could be eliminated. Sure. And so I just simply have the suggestion that the cities get together, the council members, the mayors, and, I've met with our Congress people and our senators, and, everybody has an opinion on this, and everybody's saying the same thing. We got to get taxes under control. Everybody sitting here, your constituents have come to you and said, I can't pay my tax bill, I can't afford it. And they're hearing it at Congress, they're hearing it in the Senate, and so I think where we need to figure out how to fix this is school taxes, because half of your tax bill is school taxes. So if all of you, city council all the way up to Senate, if you all can get together and figure out how to address that, maybe it'll take some of the pain and the sting out of the tax bills. My suggestion was some of your city taxes be allocated to the schools in terms of your point of sale taxes, your lottery taxes, your alcohol and tobacco taxes. If you can figure out a way to transition some of those dollars into the school system and not make it so that it's a residential responsibility, so that each household sees a decrease in that dollar amount, I think the city taxes would kind of become a moot point and people would be a lot happier. So that's my, my spiel for you all today, because I understand you're not necessarily going to be able to reduce city taxes that much, because you do have to run the city. We get that. Nobody wants their property values to be slashed in half, because if you want to sell, that's another issue. But collectively, we have to figure out a way to fix it, and it needs to be directed towards the schools. And so somebody's going to have to take that fight to the school board and get them to figure out a way to try and redistribute the responsibility for those taxes and not just place it on the homeowners, because homeowners are not the only people that use the school system. And I would venture to say there's a lot of people in here who probably don't even have kids in the school system, so it's an additional rub when you look at your tax bill and $1,500 of that is going to the schools and you don't have kids in the school system. You don't kind of feel like that's your ultimate responsibility. So if we can redistribute that responsibility a little bit more evenly amongst the entire county and do it so it doesn't hurt so bad, that might help these conversations go down a lot smoother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was Mr. Khalid and Ms. Williams.
I just wanted to offer an explanation for the property tax assessments. They were tax estimates, and they did not have the senior exemptions on those property tax assessments. And so that question came up during one of the seminars that I had at Walmart Park. A lot of the seniors showed up because they did not see their senior exemptions on those assessments, and it appeared that they were going to have a higher tax bill. The reason it appeared and it said estimate on the bottom of the bill. The reason it appeared that way because your exemptions was not on that assessment. So if you go back and look, you see the exemption was not on there. Your tax bill that you will receive will have your exemption. If you will already receive an exemption, it will appear on your tax bill. So it will be lower. Thank you.
And to your point again, there's another factor that we all up here understand, and that is that the bulk of the taxes are on the backs of these houses, these residents. And as we go forward with our economic development efforts, that we need to bring in more commercial to ease the burden of the taxpayers. I want to add that to what you already said. Okay? Ms. Brett?
No further speakers.
No further speakers. I'll close the public hearing. And next item.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Properly moved, second, in discussion. All those in favor? That passes.
Your meeting is adjourned.
Yes. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, you called a special call meeting today now that the public hearing for the millage rate is adjourned. A special call meeting was called by a majority of city council, so you're now at that item.
Before we call the special call meeting, I have some concerns. I asked today, in writing, to give me the nature of this emergency. Now I asked the attorney today to give me the nature of this emergency.
Well, Mayor, I actually did not call the meeting. However, this meeting being set up, it looks like it was inadvertent. there was a communication that was made by the city manager last night agreeing to defer this meeting to August 7th. So my recommendation was, because it's such short notice, that we do defer till August 7th. And the city manager agreed to do that last night by email. And that email was not transcribed to the entire council, so that resulted in the confusion. So when it was communicated, the city manager has agreed to defer until the 7th. The council member who I spoke to supported this meeting occurring on the 7th. So my recommendation would be that the council continue to defer this meeting till August 7th.
There were a host of conflicting emails and conflicting thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, the charter is clear as to what we can do and how we can do it. And if it doesn't pass the muster of the charter, then we don't need to be even considering that. I'm telling you, this meeting was illegal. If we had taken part in it, it did not meet the muster of the charter. And I think as we go forward, that we need to do things a little differently and have better communication. So, Ms. Rob?
I'm a little unclear. I mean, my understanding, and somebody helped clarify, that this was part of the broader budget conversation. So it was, okay, because I know there were a lot of emails about going back that really looked like polls about availability. So can somebody please clarify the calling of the meeting and the purpose?
Absolutely. So I think the first thing that we were attempting to do, so I think at our last city council meeting, we notified you that we needed to do a budget amendment for a cleanup meeting. And so the initial poll was to see, I wouldn't call it a poll, I think we were asking whether it is appropriate and legal within the rules to introduce that as a part of this meeting. Then our attorney responded and said, while you may be able to do it, it's probably more appropriate to do it on the 7th. And so I responded from my phone, so I said, fine, let's do it on the 7th. But she knew that, so I think you guys continued polling or responding, and so the meeting was set because people were available. And so that's what occurred.
Okay, Jackson?
Let me do some clarity. Because the bottom line, what I did was, I let it be known you cannot amend the agenda for a special call meeting. I brought that to the attention of several people. And then that's when I called to find out what was going on. How could, in other words, what you were talking about, bringing something to the table. I said he cannot do that at a special call meeting. Read the charter. And
I think the attorney,
But I'm saying this is how that piece happened, and I think it got turned around, stating that I was calling a meeting today. Because I started calling, what kind of meeting am I calling? Because I knew nothing about the budget to call me.
I don't think we have to get to a lot of conversations.
Yes, I have two questions. One, the meeting on the 7th is at what time?
So I'll tell you, I don't think we polled you guys about that. I think what happened was, once the attorney made the recommendation, just said that's fine, and it works for everyone. So I don't believe a poll that went out.
Well, so that we don't have any more email confusion, since all 8 of us are here now, could we poll about the time? And I also would like to poll. I also have an agenda item.
Where your agenda item on what meeting?
On
We don't
the
have
7th.
another meeting. Oh, for that, that was good.
And I do too, I have a question too.
Okay.
Comment, not a question. So for that meeting, please give us whatever it is you want us to review, to read, whatever, a few days before that meeting and not the day of or the day before. please.
So, council member, I know you have noted to email through text and requested that, but until the council sets the meeting, we didn't send any, that's why there was no information sent. I think there have been a lot of requests related to information. So if, I think Mr. Khalid is asking the poll to make sure everybody can do it. Once you poll, then we would have, I think the staff is still kind of working on the amendment. And so as soon as we know what the date is, as is regular, we would submit it within that timeline. So that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to pass something. Like,
Understood. Understood, yeah.
So please.
We'll continue to do that.
Yeah. Councilwoman Rouse?
Since we are already together on August 7th for a number of different times, I mean, I don't know how long this is projected to take, but could we meet at 5? Do you think that allows sufficient time to discuss whatever amendment it would be prior to the millage rate, third public hearing?
I don't think that's a negative, but I think the National Night Out activities take place that night as well, from 6 to 8. I believe you're proposing 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock, so it's before, it's not interfering.
Yes.
But that's the, so millage rate is fixed 6 or 12.
And so the millage rate, we would have to do the millage rate at 6. So I mean, I don't think that's a.
Right.
So we can have budget amendment at 5
At 5 o'clock, yeah.
Because
So
it's a budget modification.
5, yes.
Yeah, that appears fine for us.
Okay, and then clarity. In terms of the detail, I know a lot of people have reached out and asked questions about the detail of the budget. Will that, proposed to back into the millage rate, will that be made available to the public, and if so, when?
So I believe.
They will not the real budget by that.
Got it. So, she's talking about the full budget transmittal. So you should actually get that in about 30 to 45 minutes, and it'll be on the website, social media, et cetera, and your printed books will be submitted on August 1st within those statutory guidelines. You're talking about the full budget
The
transmittal,
full
right?
budget to back into with the proposed budget, so people understand.
Yes, the budget, we're calling that the budget book. So the official transmittal to council should happen here shortly. And then from there, also be on the website, et cetera, where it's accessible to the public as well.
Thank you.
But you were talking about trying to get that day. We need to get consensus on the day and time. You want
I would
propose
making motions. I would like for us to meet at 4. It's 4. Can people meet at 4?
What day is that?
Tuesday. So because as Mr. Donald said, National Night Out starts at 6. So we will have less than an hour if we're going to be on time for National Night Out. We will have less than an hour to discuss this budget amendment, a contract issue, and our millage rate. We'll have less than an hour.
You want to propose?
I make a motion. I was going to make a motion for 4, but I don't.
I think we should be earlier because.
I make a motion for 10 a.m. if that works.
Okay, we have a meeting.
You have a
We have a meeting at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Make a motion, Mr. Khalid.
We have a meeting that day at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.
So you got 2
On the
public
7th.
hearings.
So we're none of us are going to be at the National Night Out then, because we already have a meeting at 6 p.m.
Correct.
So we're not going to get out of that meeting before 7 p.m. The earliest we would get to National Night Out is 7:30 p.m.
And that's bad.
So our entire council is going to miss the National Night Out. So we might need to think about both of those meetings.
But, so that, I think our issue there is some of these items aren't necessarily controlled by staff. You have to, I think Ms. Haynes did an excellent job of explaining this budget process and why it's a little bit different. But now that we have the millage rate, the change in the assessment, and the statutory guidelines by which we have to deliver it, I believe the 7th is the last date that we can actually decide on the millage rate, which is why we put those two together on that date. Remember, we had different days earlier, but Fulton County gave us the adjustment and the assessment about a week later, which threw us off. And so those dates ended up being the only ones that provided staff an opportunity to adjust and review the millage rate again with the new assessment, and then give you guys an opportunity to engage in the mandatory public hearing. So it's we're kind of in a tight spot, not for our.
I'm not suggesting that we change the date. I just want the council to be mindful of the fact that we have 3 weighty issues to discuss and be out of here by 5:30 so that we could be on time for our national night out.
Can we meet earlier?
Excuse me. Then what I need to do is someone, in consideration of all that you just said, to make a motion as to when that started.
That's fine. I'm going to ask someone who has a conflict that day to make the motion. I have no conflicts that day.
Before the motion is made, I would like to know, what are the 3 items that we have to deal with that day? So, Khalid just said we have 3 items to deal with that day. 1 is the millage rate. 2 is the amended budget. What's number 3?
Millage rate is twice.
No, there isn't number 3.
What's number 3?
Personnel? What's a personnel?
It's a contract issue.
Issue?
Personnel?
It's a
Contract issue.
litigation.
Oh. So you want a meeting in the executive session?
Yeah.
Can we do that today? Can we do that today?
No. Has not been publicized.
So today, your actions that you can take today are limited to the topic of the budget amendment. So you can reschedule the budget amendment and have discussion on that, but you're not supposed to act today outside of that scope.
Right.
So we can have a executive session today, but it's limited to the budget amendment.
Correct.
Okay, so we can go ahead and have that discussion today.
You can, but the recommendation, I'm still going to stand behind the recommendation that you defer that until the 7th. But if you want to, you can have that today. You would just have to, one, it has to be urgent and an emergency. So if you feel that, the budget funding to ensure that there's available funding is an emergency, then you can meet to discuss that issue. But my recommendation would be, so you don't have to label this an emergency, that you move it to the 7th, to August 7th.
I move that we discuss in executive session what we are allowed to discuss, and which is the budget amendment. Is that what?
Yeah, you can discuss the budget amendment.
Okay, I move that we do that. So we won't have to worry about who's voting.
Well, I don't know if the city manager, I think his understanding from last night was that we were not going to have this meeting, so I don't even know if he's prepared.
Yeah. Depending on, so we can discuss the budget amendment. I guess we can discuss the parameters of it.
Yeah, I want to get as much discussion out of the way as possible.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but my executive session item is not about the budget or the millage rate.
Well, you can.
Okay.
Well, I second
What are you saying?
her motion.
What was your motion again?
My motion was to go into executive session tonight and discuss whatever we can legally discuss, so that we would not have to spend time on the 7th discussing. So whatever we can legally discuss, let's go ahead and discuss it tonight, because the complaint is we want to get out of here as fast as possible on the 7th so that we can make it to the city of South Fulton's first national night out.
All right, so properly moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes. So you all can move to executive session. Mr. Clerk?
I was given that this special call meeting, and specifically the executive session, was for the purpose of receiving important information from the city manager on the fiscal year 2018 true up.
Okay, can I get a motion? What you said in the back.
Oh, that we gonna discuss. Oh. Are we motioning to move the taxes? Can you repeat that?
I'd like to make a motion to have a special call meeting in reference to
The budget.
the budget amendment at 11 o'clock on the 7th of August.
Okay, so can I make a friendly amendment to that, your statement? We're gonna have a budget, we're gonna have a, meeting to discuss the true up of the fiscal 2018 budget.
That's what I said.
Yes, second?
Second.
Properly moved to second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved to second. All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.